Hi, I'm Fred Hewett, and I'm here tonight to tell you about the 350 Mass LTE team, which has written thousands of letters to the editor over the past 10 years. And we're going to dive right in and look at the processes that make it all happen. So I'm sharing my screen. Hold on one second. Had it, and then I lost it. Okay, I have to do desktop. Sorry for that. Okay. You're not seeing my screen, are you?
We're good.
Hold on.
We're seeing it.
You did see my whole desktop?
Yep.
Okay, great. So this is the email that goes out each day, 7 days a week, to the team members. Team members are essentially the members of a Google group, and we use the Google group as sort of the membership organization platform. So every day as a member of the team, you'll get an email, and it's links for Thursday is the one that obviously went out today. And the first thing we note is that one of our team members had a letter in the Providence Journal this morning. We actually also had 2 letters in the Globe that our search tools missed, but if you look at today's Globe, there's a letter from John Devendorf and a letter from Marvin Rabinovitz, and they are both team members. Actually, they are members of the Third Act team, which is a parallel team. We all use the same platform. So if you look at this, we see we've got Boston Globe, Providence Journal. As I mentioned, we occasionally do out-of-state stuff. Here's the Berkshire Eagle. They have an article today about the environmental movement. And we've got the Springfield paper, the Worcester paper, and the Salem paper. So there's lots of news every day. And we have these search tools that put together that facilitate the construction of this morning blast for the captain being the person who sends out the daily email. So let's just take a look at one of these. Let's look at this article in the Springfield Republican about AI. And you can see it's all there. It's kind of noisy. There's a lot of, where did that go? A lot of stuff there that I don't really want to see because, and also a typical problem that we run into is paywall. So if you don't have a subscription to a paper, then you might hit a paywall, and it's very annoying. And for example, if I go to Berkshire Eagle, eventually I'll see I get this kind of stuff, and it wants me to sign in or go home, or and neither of which I want to do. So let me just close that. Now, the same article, Berkshire Eagle, what I can do is instead of going on to the link, I can use this button that says text that you see here. This is just a little too big. I can use this text button here, and that will take me to the text of the article without showing me all the ads, all the news, all the pop-ups, all the videos. And so you do not have to have a subscription to the Globe or a subscription to the Springfield Republican or any of these. If we send you the link, then it's pretty much guaranteed that the text button will get you the text of the article so that you can read it. Here's, for example, on the Globe. This article's in the Globe. I do have a subscription to the Globe, so I can see that one. But that's how it would look in the text mode. And you can copy the text of the article to the clipboard using these tools. You can change the font size to make it easier to read. And you can even get a summary, which uses our AI tool to pull up a bulleted summary. That's really big text. So that summary is there that it just pulled up when I clicked summarize. So that's how the blast is going to work. You're going to, as a member of the team, you're going to be getting these emails each morning, the blast, and you have the ability to read all these papers, even if you don't have a subscription to the paper. So let's pick one arbitrarily. No, not that. Yeah, this one is. I'm going to poke the text. I read the article. I think, well, this is very interesting. I'm going to write a letter. So I can click here. Do you see where it says create a draft letter? All I have to do is just click that. It takes me to the draft page. You can see we're on the platform that the LTE team uses, LTEsearch.org. And we're using the draft mode. Over here, we were using the read page on the LTEsearch.org site. So on the draft page, you can start just by clicking this Create Document button, and it goes out, and I should have clicked. Well, anyway, you can do this. And you can see it says make a copy, and there you have the start of your Google Doc. One thing I also wanted to show you on the draft page. So I'm in my Google Doc page now, and I'm ready. I've read this article about an existential question for the environmental movement. And now I'm ready to write a letter. But I'm a little at sea as to what I want to write. So I can go back to the draft page. If I'd opened it in another window, I wouldn't have to reopen it. I said, give me some talking points. Again, this is using an AI. It's totally optional. We don't require the use of AI at any point. And we also are not using high-powered AI. We're not using Sam Altman's OpenAI stuff. We're using Anthropic, which is a much more ethical AI company. And we're also buying carbon offsets to offset the additional compute cost of using the AI for the LTE team. So you can see when I click Get Talking Points, it gives me this bulleted list of things that I might want to put into a letter that reflects this article. And if I was even lazier, I could actually tell it to draft a letter for me, again, using the AI. But these are, again, totally optional, and we don't require the use of AI. It's something to help you get going. It's more for people who are new to LTE writing, and they may just need a little jump start to get sort of prime the pump. So again, and you wouldn't just copy. You could see I could do this. I could say copy and paste. And I'd say, okay, I'm ready to go. I'm done with my letter. You don't do that. You're going to have to read this. You're going to have to edit it. You're going to have to personalize it. You're going to have to break it into paragraphs. So it's just sort of a jump start. It's not by any means an attempt to give you a finished letter that you want to submit to the editor. But for the sake of argument, let's suppose this is our letter. We're going to maybe put a paragraph mark here or something. I'm not even reading this. I don't know if it's a good letter or a horrible letter. But you can see it puts a call to action at the end. Rather than retreat from climate progress, we must accelerate. Our children's future depends on the choices we make today. It's a little banal, but you know, it's a computer. So then the next step, and this is kind of like the secret sauce for the LTE team. And I just want to put a note up here. Because I'm going to actually send this out to the team.
Pardon me.
And, yeah.
Bigger on the screen, or zoom in on that so we can see it.
I can't hear you. I heard a question, but could you say it again?
I think Jonathan was asking if you could make the view bigger so that it's easier to see with the screen share.
The view bigger.
So if you go to view in the within Drive. Yep.
What, you want a bigger zoom on that? I mean, the
Yeah.
actual text really doesn't matter that much at this point. I don't see the. Where's that file?
Oh, sorry. I mean the percentage next to the
Yeah.
up right there.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Okay, so here it is. So here's the letter, and again, we're not really too concerned about what this letter says, but the point is that you generate your letter either by using some of the tools or with the old-fashioned way, actually typing it in yourself. And once you've got it, you can actually, well, there's two things you can do. The next thing you would probably do if you're following procedures is just copy it to the clipboard, the text of your letter. And then we use this tool to get a critique. So I paste it in and I say, give me a critique of this letter. This is totally optional. If you're happy with your letter and you don't want to use the tools to have it critiqued, then you don't have to do that. So it says you're within the 200-word limit. That's good. It's well-organized flow of ideas. Could be more concise, and it's no significant spelling errors. Highly coherent, presents a clear viewpoint, and it also will critique how likely you are to publish this. It's appropriate length. That's good. It has a clear reference to a previous article, and it's a timely topic and so forth. And it suggests some minor improvements. So this is something that, again, if you want to use the automated tools to critique your letter and give you some hints about strengthening it, you're welcome to use that. And the link is right there in the header of the letter. So once I've got my letter where I want to get more input from the team, then I go up here to this share button. And I click share. And then I'm going to share it with the 350 Mass Cambridge Media Team. Happens to be the name of the Google group for historical reasons. And basically, when you share the letter with the Google group, Google is going to send a notification with a link to the letter to all the members of the team. It's important when you do this to send it to commenter and not editor. Otherwise, another team member could edit your letter without you knowing it. So it's very important to set it to commenter. And I'm just going to say I'm doing a demonstration for new 350 members. You can ignore this. Okay, and so then I would send. Now, every member of the team is going to get an email saying, Fred Hewett has shared a letter and for your comments. In fact, I can probably see what that looks like in my inbox. Yeah, I got a notice from me, Fred Hewett, document is shared with you an existential question. And obviously, if you were really doing this, you wouldn't say this. And then they could open it and they would take basically to here. And then what happens next is, I think I'm just going to show you like some letters that were written today by the LTE team and how that looks. So here's a letter. This is actually on the third act team, but so people like Noy out in Heath wrote this letter, and Warren made some comments, and Noy hasn't accepted or rejected the comments yet. And yes, he said, thanks, Warren, these are good edits. And then Sia chimed in, and Peter So people are either making suggestions or just giving you encouragement, or you know, possibly correcting errors that you made. And so that's how that's going to work. Now, once you've got, go back to our letter, once you've got the letter, you've done the critique and you've done the share, you've gotten feedback from your other team members, now you just want to send it, right? So in the case of the, what paper are we here? In case of the Berkshire Eagle, you don't email it, but you notice that the header that we provided tells you the link of how they like to have their letters submitted for the Berkshire Eagle. So I would just do a copy of that. Then I would go up to this link that's provided. Now I'm going out. This is a Google form that the Berkshire Eagle uses, and you know, I would basically just paste my letter in here and fill out my name and whatever other questions they have on the form, and then I would submit the letter to the Eagle, and that would, I'm not going to do that actually, because I have no idea what this letter says, to tell you the truth. But that's the whole process. So just to recap, you're going to get the blast in the morning. You're going to click on a text link, then you're going to read the article, you're going to think about it, you're going to decide if you want to draft a letter, you're going to click draft. You can optionally get talking points for this letter or not, and then you can open a Google Doc. It's creating another document now for the Providence Journal. We make, this is just a, and I'm off to the races again, writing my letter. And then when I'm done writing, I get the critique using that link there. Then I do the share to share it with the 350 Mass team. And then after I've incorporated the changes from my team, I send it off. In this case, I would send an email of the body of my letter to this provided email address, letters@Providence Journal. I would never send the metadata to the paper. I would only send the body to the paper. So that's the whole process, end to end. And I'm going to stop share and ask what you think. Did that go too fast? Do you have questions, or was it clear? Or
how long does it take typically to get a letter from start to finish?
Well, what time did I start? It might take, you know, depending on how much effort you want to put. If you have a good idea of what you want to say and you're a fast writer, then it could only take 10 or 15 minutes. But we do have team members. You probably know, if you've been on the 350 mailings or involved with the team at all, not with the organization at all, you might have seen the name Sue Donaldson. She's one of our captains. She can turn around a letter in 15 minutes tops, and she gets a lot of her letters published as well. So it's no hard and fast number, but
Brad, one moment.
It can be quicker now.
If I could just, if folks could raise their electronic hand, that'd be great. Just to have a nice progression of Q and A's.
I see Anne next. Go ahead, Anne.
Yeah, first let me just like compliment you on something that is old hat to you, but it's like, wow, you've thought of everything and made all that stuff that gets in the way so easy, you know, by having the critique and by having the place you send it, and it's just lovely. So first of all, let's say that. But I'm also wondering two different things. One is, how quickly do you need to respond in order to be likely to get the letter in? And that might vary with newspapers, of course. And my second one is, so you pick some out-of-state newspapers during the election, and I guess I'm thinking about the it might be good to be doing some out of state in more purple areas and responding in a continued way. And I'm wondering what you think about that. So two things. Feel free to not take up all the time talking to me about those things, but
Yeah,
we can
sure.
talk later or whatever.
Okay, so in terms of the timeliness of your response, sooner is better, obviously, especially for the bigger papers, which tend to, like the Globe tends to turn them around. Although today we had letters that were published that were written over a week ago, so it's no hard and fast rule. For papers that have a daily letters column, it's going to be more important to get your letter in the 48-hour window. And remember that we're sending out this search first thing in the morning typically. So the stories appeared the previous day, so they're already day old kind of. Some of them are same day, but some of them are from the previous day. So I would say, as a general rule of thumb, and 24 to 48 hours is a good response time. As far as out-of-state papers, it's a question, two issues there. I think one is, will out-of-state papers publish letters from Massachusetts? We've had mixed success during the election. We did okay in Detroit and Phoenix, but not so great in Atlanta. I mean, it was hit and miss. And we haven't had certainly the level of publication in the out-of-state papers that we get with the local papers. The ideal solution to that is to recruit members in those places and spin up new LTE teams in those areas. That's sort of my goal. We actually are doing that with Third Act Maine. They have adopted the same tools. They're using the same server, the same website that we use, but they have a completely independent Google group, and they manage the whole thing on their end. And I never see any, well, actually I'm a member of there just to keep an eye on for helping them out purposes, but the two groups are using the same platform independently. I would love to have a team in Detroit, or as you mentioned, the other purple states, who is able to use our tools. But in the meantime, we do sort of a scattershot outreach to papers that we think we might have a chance of publishing. And again, that's sort of on a rotating basis. If we don't have success, then we flip them out and put a new one in.
I see. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Nick is next.
Thank you. That was your step-by-step was awesome. It really makes it seem doable and easy, actually. So two questions. One, in the letter that you showed us, there were two share. There's a share button in the upper right, and then there's a blue text that says share, I believe. And I'm not sure,
Yeah.
there must be a difference between the two of them. And
Yeah.
and then the
The
other
blue
question,
text is just text. It's there to sort of, that used to
there's
be
no
the
link?
same blue. And no, unfortunately, it's just
okay.
text with a blue background. It was an attempt to connect that this button is the button on the upper right, but Google has changed the color so that they no longer match. I should go in and get that fixed. It's the one on the upper right that does something.
Okay.
The one embedded where it says please share or please press the share button is just text. So you need to click that button in the upper right.
And I would think that 350 having organizations in pretty much every state, isn't there a way for you to, if you have something that you really want to get out in Detroit, is there a way to contact the whoever's in charge of the state chapter there? Because we have a pretty fluid group here in Massachusetts. I'm assuming that most groups are fairly fluid like we are, to have the contact to say, look, we'd really like to get this letter out. we think your impact, you would have more impact sending it.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. I mean, it has to be done on an ad hoc basis because 350 mass for in actual is not actually connected to 350.org. It's part of Better Future Project.
Right.
Anyway, they share goals and aspirations, but and so 350 isn't a national network of I mean, there are different locales where they have organizations called 350, but there's no umbrella organization to outreach to them. We did a few years ago. One of my colleagues, who unfortunately has since passed away, was actively doing a lot of outreach to groups around the country, trying to get them fired up. And for a while, Seattle was using the tools, but then they fell off and are doing something else. But it's more of a long-term goal that I would like to pursue.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I see Jonathan next. Still muted, Jonathan, still muted. No, muted.
I see Dan.
There you go. We
One
got you.
question that you wanted to respond to.
That didn't come through, Jonathan. I could not understand it. I'm sorry. You can put it in the chat, and I will try to respond. Please go ahead, unmute and.
Yeah, I just wondered how you choose what articles to respond to. Who does that, and how do you choose? And like, if you're getting that email, who is just first one that grabs it is the one that writes it, and do you put a preference on someone who's from the area, like Berkshire's for the Berkshire Eagle, for example?
Well, the answer is your premise is mistaken. In
Okay.
fact, today we have several people responding to that article in the Berkshire. The more letters that the editor receives about an
Okay,
article,
I
the
getcha.
more likely they are to run one.
I gotcha.
And we are sort of, a team, so we don't really care. We don't say, okay, I've claimed that one, no one else take it.
Right. Okay, what about how you choose which articles to list in your blast?
Okay, so we have basically a keyword search, and there is a long list of keywords, which we update periodically to reflect what's going on. Like last week, I added NOAA, N-O-A-A, which previously we didn't have a search for, but now it's popped into the news and it's very important. So the search that we run will now pick up NOAA. And so it's primarily keyword driven and then filtered down. And we have like several stages of filtering that. And the final one being yet another AI treatment where we ask the AI, like, is this really a climate article or is it just junk? But even the job of the captains is to take all the hits that Google returns and sort through them and curate them to give you the ones that the captain feels are most likely to be good targets for letters. So it's an editorial process that the captain does.
Okay, thank you.
Jonathan, your hand is up. Oh, did you put your question in the chat? Okay. Dan, and Jen, and Jonathan. Okay. How do we know someone else has already claimed an article? Okay, I think we sort of answered that. You don't claim an article. The more people who write about an article, the better. So yes, Anne has correctly answered that. You're okay, Jonathan, with that? You're nodding. Terrific. Thank you. Okay. So who else has a question?
Fred,
Andrea,
I'd just
do you
love
have
to cut the line a little bit. Speaking to expansion to other states, I think that's something that we should talk about kind of in a future meeting. It could be a good issue to bring up to the statewide steering team, the SST, or a meeting of the letter to the editor team captains. But the short answer, Nick, to what you were pushing at is that while we aren't fiscally tied to 350.org, we still have lots of close relationships with them and share, for
Right.
example, trainings with them.
Oh,
And
okay, I didn't know
there's
that.
a
Okay.
group called the 350 Network Council, which is the 350 kind of sub-organizations or affiliates that have staff. And
Okay.
my colleague, Evan Bell, our organizing director, represents us on the Network Council. And so that would be a great avenue to share out the software when we are ready to expand to other states.
Yeah, thanks for filling me in on that, Dan. And I apologize if I introduced any misinformation there. And so, yeah, that would be a great avenue for us to try to, expand the effort.
All good. Nothing we can't clear up right now.
Dan, do you have the emails of all these nice people who have joined?
Yes. So
So
if
we
everyone's
can do
okay,
a
I will
follow-up.
share your email with Fred so they can add you to the Google group and you can get started as early as tomorrow morning. Seeing as we
right.
do have a little bit of time, Fred, if it's okay with you, I'd love to talk a little bit about what to write about because I know
Sure.
we talked a lot about the technical side of this, of how to do it, but we
Yep.
didn't talk a huge amount outside of the generative software for what to write about. And Andrea had a really great point earlier that stories are really compelling. And so if there's a way to connect the work that you're doing with 350 Mass or work that you know is happening around the state on climate to your personal life and write that into a letter that's responding to the news, that is really powerful. And if you want to connect it to our priority campaigns, that would be very topical. 350 Mass just went through a 3-month campaign selection process, which I know Anne was at the core of helping make happen. And we selected 2 campaigns, the Make Polluters Pay campaign around creating a climate super fund to make big oil pay for the cost of climate adaptation, and Save Money with Clean Heat, which is about creating a streamlined and improved service for building decarbonization, getting our buildings off of fossil fuel appliances. So there's lots of great stuff to write about. Those 2 campaigns tie into a lot of the articles that we're seeing right now in Massachusetts, both in the need for funding and how pressing the issue of building decarbonization is. I'm happy to talk more if anyone has specific questions about that, but I'd love to hear after Anne asked her question, if folks have thoughts for what sort of climate impacts tie into their lives or specific issues that they'd be willing to share some personal thoughts on when they get to writing their letters. But first, Anne?
Thanks. Two things. One is that Jen has a question in the chat that didn't get responded to about Google and blah, blah, blah. So I just wanted to point that out. And secondly, the middle of the Massachusetts is a redder, purpler place. And I would really love to figure out if there's some, I mean, now we have nodes or affiliates in the mid section of the state, but there are a lot of little towns and such. And we don't want to take it for granted that we'll always be blue. So I would be I kind of have this personal thing going on about launching into places and responding in a modulated middle tone that corrects some of the misinformation that is out there. It's kind of fired up about that. So would love us to try and figure out whether there's some of those newspapers, and maybe you already have them in the list and I just didn't notice, like Worcester or, Fitchburg or, these kind of places. I'd be interested in that. So, but, like you're already doing a lot of work. So you know, far be it from us newbies to just say, why don't you do some more work? And so, you know, humility all around. Thanks.
Yeah,
Okay,
I mean,
can
I think
can
that's
I just-
actually, yeah, Fred, after you.
Yeah. Over the 10 years, we have brought a lot of papers in and seen a lot of papers kind of get gutted. There's a lot of ghost papers out there. Anything that says wicked local is not worth bothering with. And there's these big conglomerates, Gatehouse and others, like Gannett or wherever they are. They come in, they buy the local paper, they just fill it with crap. It's just clickbait, and they don't publish letters a lot of the time. There are some good little independent papers out there now, like in Plymouth, in New Bedford, in Provincetown. Someone just told me about one in the Berkshires. But there's certain criteria that we need for a paper. It has to be visible to Google, that Google is going to turn up search hits on it. And it has to publish online letters. Those two things, I'd be happy to entertain any that are out there that you know of, as long as they satisfy those criteria.
Awesome. Thank you, Fred.
Yeah.
I would love to, Jen, if you're okay with me putting on the spot, would love to ask you about that. I know you're from Shrewsbury and 350 Central Mass. You might be able to speak to that a little bit. And then Fred, would love to have you answer Jen's question from earlier. And then Nick, to you, and then we can wrap. But Jen, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I'm sorry, I kind of missed what are you asking me to speak to? I'm sorry.
So Anne was talking about how we kind of spread climate progressive ideas and letters to Central Mass papers. If there are ones in Shrewsbury that you've seen people successfully write to, or in the general Worcester area.
I'm honestly just getting started with everything. So, I mean, I can't really speak to anything. I know, I'm just getting started actually joining our local Shrewsbury environmental group that's here. So I couldn't really speak to anything like what's actually been happening. So,
All good.
sorry.
Well, you're right at the beginning of the journey. We'll talk in a year and you'll be the Shrewsbury powerhouse.
Yeah.
But Fred, if you don't
Jen-
mind, I reposted Jen's question about the Gmail and Google accounts in the chat.
Yeah.
Do you see that?
Yeah, I saw that. I just saw it now. I also wanted to mention that the Worcester Telegram is in our circuits, so we don't get a lot of hits from them, but they do still publish letters, and we had a link today in the blast from the Telegram. That's the major paper that I know of in the Worcester area. As far as Google and Gmail goes, you will save yourself some grief if you have a Gmail address. I'm not sure exactly, I should know by now, but people generally, when you start sharing documents and commenting on documents, if you're switching between, like it will ask you to log into Google or something like that. So it's generally better if you have a Gmail address, but it's not absolutely required. It goes a little smoother, let me put it that way. Dan, are you moderating now or am I?
Yeah, no, that's a great response. Nick, and then unless there's any other questions, we can call it a night.
So just to go to your first point about what matters to us in writing letters, I've been writing letters, not just on letters to the editor, but also in places that you might not think of, like LinkedIn, where I follow Dana Drugman, and she does a piece called Climate in the Courts, which is really relevant because there's a lot of discussion about the make polluters pay. Right now, she was at the demonstration we went to in New York State. And I find that I think Anna just said this about pushing back against the negativity and the misinformation. I see a lot of that crap in LinkedIn, and a lot of it, they attack people like Dana. So I try to step in and go, whoa, wait a minute, dude, where's your information type of stuff. And so I think that when you have a passion about something like that, it makes it easier to come in and sort of like a link elbows type of approach with somebody else, And when they're trying to defend a position, or they're trying to at least even make the facts known and try to abate some of that negativity and some of that misinformation. And I'm not sure if you can actually do that in a letters to the editor. I guess maybe you're responding to another letter that's got a lot of misinformation to it, but I think it's, yeah, I think you have to just be careful if you're going to try to make your letter to the editor just this whole diatribe of facts. I don't know how well that's going to get across. So anyway, that's my
I
thing.
think the best thing is to read other people's letters. I mean, that is the de facto proof, you know, of what the editor wants to publish. So if you go to if you're reading the paper, read the letters, see what the editor, what kind of tone, what kind of style, and you know, he tends to favor. Nick, haven't I seen your letters in the Eagle? The name is very familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're a pro already.
No. Well, mostly it's about housing, because that's, as an architect, that's something that, you know, I tend to focus on certain things. And there's been a lot of that lately with Lee Davis and her campaign, and she's with Construct and blah, blah, blah. And there's a lot of connectivity there. So, but anyway.
Okay.
Yeah, do you have time for one more thought?
Sure.
Yeah, I just talking about reaching people in purple areas. You talked about the different newspapers, but I think if you incorporate something about economics or just, you know, prices in your letter, that's going to make people notice. That's what they're interested in now. I listened to Melissa Hoffer's talk on Tuesday night. She's our climate chief, and the state is trying to work on getting people to use energy when it's cheaper. I mean, I don't understand how that's going to work, but that would be a good thing, and that ties into climate, and put it in a letter.
Yeah, our utilities are way behind on time of use metering. They've had it in other states, and I don't know what's wrong with them. I think they had a pilot program at one point, or either Grid or Eversource. But yeah, time of use metering isn't like high technology. It's something that they should have rolled out years ago, and it could make a difference. I mean, everybody's dishwasher has a delay feature where you can run it at 3 in the morning. So yeah, absolutely.
Great. Well, folks, Fred is available via email for any further questions. If you leave the call and you're like, ah, shoot, I should have asked that. He's very happy to take them, and I'm very happy to volunteer him to take them. And Fred, thank you so much for running a great training tonight. This was the first of what I hope is many, to fill the team out, get as many people as possible writing letters, and push our causes across Massachusetts. So huge shout out to Fred, and huge shout out to all of you for coming tonight. Thank you so much for making our first LTE training a success.